6 years after King Josiah began eradicating the idols out of Judah and Israel, something tremendous happened in 2 Kings 22. He commissioned rebuilding the temple. Josiah understood there was a problem, and the problem was the people were still worshiping idols, and they weren't worshiping God the right way because God's house was laying in disrepair. And so he understood we've got to rebuild the temple. And so he commissions rebuilding the temple, which is lying in ruins, sends the secretary to the temple to talk to the priest, to talk to the treasurer of the temple, and he sends them there to rebuild, and they begin looking for the money to rebuild the temple and moving the stones around the temple, digging their way out of the rubble. And as they move a block or a brick or a stone, they look down and they see something, and they pick up a book. And they open it, and they realize this is the book of the law. We know it as Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. Buried in the rubble of the temple was the Bible. And the priest reads it and says, "Oh no, we are in serious trouble. You know how many curses we've got coming our way? We have not done what this book says." And he gives it to the secretary, Shaphan, and the secretary goes to King Josiah, and he says to King Josiah, "Now, King, as we were going through the temple, we found a book." And the king says, "Read it." And he begins reading the book of the law to King Josiah. And as King Josiah hears the covenant curses being read, he tears his clothes in mourning because he knows he and his kingdom are finished before God. And so he sends to a woman named Huldah to find out, should we even bother rebuilding the temple, or is that it for us? Are we done? And Huldah says, God will give you peace in your days because you are seeking him. Rebuild the temple, move forward with the worship. And King Josiah rebuilds the temple based on the law. And then in chapter 23, verse 13, we find that he goes now through Israel and he gets rid of every single idol he missed on the first sweep 6 years ago. Verse 13 says, "The high places which were before Jerusalem, which were on the right of the mount of destruction, which Solomon, the king of Israel, had built for Ashtoreth, the abomination of the Sidonians, and for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab, and for Milcom, the abomination of the sons of Ammon, the king defiled. He broke in pieces the sacred pillars and cut down the Asherim and filled their places with human bones." At 20 years old, before he had heard the book of the law, he got rid of the idols, but there was a certain idol he wasn't confident enough to take down, and that was the one put up by great-great-great-granddaddy Solomon. You just can't tear down a 300-year-old idol. That is a sacred idol. Solomon put it up. Who am I to take that down? But he hears the word of God. He hears the law of God, and he says, all idols must go. It doesn't matter who built them. It doesn't matter how long they've been there. It doesn't matter how precious they are to our traditions or our people. All idols must be destroyed. That's the effect of hearing what God thinks about idolatry on someone who is seeking the Lord. Someone who is seeking the Lord and hears God's view of idols must eradicate all idols from their lives. As we close this series, my prayer is that as a church and as individuals, we would follow the example of King Josiah when he pursued the Lord. That having heard the word of the Lord concerning idolatry, we would be zealous to purge and protect our hearts from all idols. No matter how long they've been there, no matter why they're there, no matter who put them there, no matter what tradition they come from, whether they're family idols, personal idols, destroy them. My prayer is that we would stand where we are called to stand, that we would pursue Christ-centered relationships, contentment, and priorities to remove the idols of our hearts and keep Christ in his rightful place as the only God we serve.